Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Papa West, Jacob West, here for a day late. TMG takes the field. Day late, but it's still here. It does not matter as long as it's here. We are still going nice and strong. And I plan on going until there's no more sports left, or until I get tired of this. I'll probably get tired of this before there's no more sports left. Let's be honest. But until then, and that'll be a while from now. Let's get into this week's show. It's going to be a crazy show today. Why? Because I just feel like having a crazy show. It's probably not going to be crazy. But just like we always open up every show with, we are going to be talking about breaking news. Biggest things, again, we're going to mainly talk about NFL stuff here because every other sport will have actual sections over. Biggest things, trade deadline was last week. Because of that, we did see several players get cut who were not traded. A lot of teams, or not a lot, but several big names have been signed. The first, Cam Newton, quarterback for the Panthers for the longest time, then got cut, signed with the Patriots, last with the Patriots for a year, and then during the preseason this year, they ended up cutting him because they were going to start Mac Jones. He's a free agent no more. He actually just re-signed with the Carolina Panthers. Didn't I kind of say that in an episode of Inside the Horseshoe, talking about how crazy it would be for him to go back to the Panthers? Yes, I did actually. But yes, he has re-signed with the Panthers. Will he start immediately? Well, he's probably not going to start immediately, but will he start not this upcoming Sunday, but the Sunday after? Maybe. We will see. Sam Darnold definitely has been playing well. So it'd be interesting to see, especially with McCaffrey having a familiar face. That was one thing I always thought was why Darnold had some bad games recently, was because McCaffrey was injured. But we saw with this last Sunday, McCaffrey was there, and they got stomped. But no, Cam Newton has re-signed with the Panthers. We'll see. It might be too little too late for the Panthers to be able to do anything well for the remainder of the season, but we'll see how long he lasts with the team. Other news, the Rams have added Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ, who was just recently cut by the Browns, has signed with the Rams. I do find this kind of interesting. The Rams just gave up Deshaun Jackson, just cut him last week. Didn't really have a lot of room for receivers. That was why Deshaun Jackson was great at the beginning of the year. Had like two, 3 weeks where he was having amazing numbers, and then was not performing at all because when they have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp already in their receiving room. So why would they have any more? And that they signed OBJ, which I'm a little confused of. They have a lot of players in that at wide receiver, two really great players. But it doesn't matter what I think. They did it. So we'll see how that turns out. As far as other NFL news, Russell Wilson is close to 100% after injuring his, I believe it was his middle finger and his ring finger on his throwing hand. He tore some tendons. He is getting better. So Geno Smith should not have to be starting for that team much longer, which, let's be honest, Geno Smith shouldn't be starting for a team. I said it. I've watched Geno Smith since he was a Jet, since he was, I believe he was a West Virginia Mountaineer. He's okay. Not great. But we're not here for my hot takes. We're here to talk about soccer. It's not why we're here, but we will talk about soccer. Major League Soccer has just, or is about to start up their playoffs. And I had it all pulled up. I have to re-get the website. because we'll just go over the bracket right now. It's starting, I believe it's on the 20th. It's like here in 9 days. So we'll kind of cover it a little bit as we go. The MLS playoffs is just like the NFL, where it's 7 teams for each division. I don't think they have the aggregate for the first couple rounds. I could definitely be mistaken on that, but I don't believe they do. It does not look like they do, because on the 25th, one of the teams who has a round one bye is playing. So yeah, they don't have the aggregate to begin with. I know they used to towards the end. I'll have a definitive answer on that next week whenever we get closer to the bracket. But I just kind of want to break down where the bracket is at right now. So in there are the two divisions. There's West and East. In the West, the Colorado Rapids finished with the number one overall seed, so they will have a round one bye. Every other team that made it will not have a round one bye. So for the three matchups, we have the number 4 versus number 5. Number 4 is the Portland Timbers. Number 5 is Minnesota FC. The 3 and 6, number 3 is Sporting KC. Number 6, the Vancouver Whitecaps. 2 and 7, 2 is the Seattle Sounders. 7 is Real Salt Lake. And then you'll have the higher seed remaining, or the lowest seed remaining will go on to play Colorado, and then the next two will go on to play each other. As far as who I see winning each of these round one matchups, I definitely have Seattle taking on Sporting KC in the second round. The number 2 and number 3 seed winning to meet up. Seattle, I've said it, I'm a big Seattle Sounders fan. Sporting KC is a very good team. I don't think Real Salt Lake or Vancouver Whitecaps are going to be able to beat them. But again, if it's a winner take all game, anything can happen. But I definitely see that Sporting KC and Seattle moving on to the second round. So that means whoever wins between Portland and Minnesota will take on Colorado. I have to give the edge to Portland. I really haven't watched a lot of the Minnesota FC. I've seen quite a bit of Portland because they are rivals with Seattle Sounders. So I see them play quite a bit. I see them play each other quite a bit. So we'd have Colorado versus Portland, and then Sporting KC versus Seattle. I do think Colorado will win. They're the number one team for the reason. They do. I actually was at a Colorado Rapids game a couple of years ago. They do have a pretty good defense. They do have. Who's number 10? Their midfielder is fantastic. And then they have a forward who's named Kamara, just like Alvin Kamara, who is also very good. I'm sorry, I can't think of exact names right at this moment. But Colorado versus Portland, I would say Colorado would win. And then Seattle versus Sporting KC. My heart is telling me Seattle. My brain's kind of telling me Sporting KC. Sporting KC has always been that team that has had Seattle's number in games that matter. So I do think the Western Conference Finals is going to be Colorado versus Sporting KC, and I would give the edge to Colorado, which means my predictions, none of these happen. So it's going to be completely different than what I said. But hey, predictions, you got to love them. In the Eastern Conference, the New England Revolution, who I've actually seen play twice, both against a Dallas team. Fun fact. New England Revolution are the number 1 seed. The 4 and 5 matchup. Number 4 is New York FC. Number 5 is Atlanta. The number 3 and 6, 2 new teams, both teams that have not been playing that long. Nashville and Orlando. And then the number 2 and 7, Philadelphia and New York Red Bull. That's right, there are 2 soccer teams in New York. Interesting how that happens. For the New York City versus Atlanta, I would give the edge to New York. Nashville and Orlando. I haven't seen a lot of Nashville play. They are a pretty new team. I want to say the newest team. Right? I don't know if Austin might be an official team because I know that they were going to be the newest team. Nashville was like the second newest. I have seen a little bit of Orlando play. They had the COVID Cup last year that they did very good on. Um, so maybe I'd give that one to Orlando. Maybe I'm probably gonna give that one to Orlando. Uh, and then as far as the number 2 versus number 7, Philadelphia versus New York Red Bull, I'm going to give it to Philadelphia. So I would have New England Revolution taking on Orlando FC, New York FC versus Philadelphia. I would have New England versus Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, the Union winning the Eastern Conference. So it would be Philadelphia versus Colorado. Um, and I think Colorado takes it home. The Rapids win it all. You heard it here first. Um, Other soccer news, we are doing the World Cup qualifiers right now. USA is taking on Mexico. I believe it is this Friday. So tomorrow, they last played in the Gold Cup finals where US won 1-0. I also found out today that the United States men's national team's head coach or manager, they're called the same thing as Greg Berhalter. He's a former player. I believe he was a defender. I believe I could be mistaken on that. We are in the process of World Cup qualifiers. Are going on until like March because the World Cup, I believe, is next year. So very excited about that, and we'll talk a lot more about that as we move on with that. Next, we're going to talk about Major League Baseball. Not a lot has changed since we last talked because last time we talked, the Atlanta Braves had won it all. We kind of talked about the free agents, players who had not signed their or accepted their last year option, or teams that had rejected a player's last year option. There hasn't been a lot changing since that, but one thing that has changed was all the Golden Glove winners have been announced. So I will get the list because I cannot find it anymore on ESPN's website. Fun fact, when you search Golden Glove winners on Google, first thing that pops up is Golden Globe. Those are two very different awards. So the website, or it's MLB.com, it's going by position. So I will say position and who wins for each division instead of going, or league instead of going American League, here are your winners. National League, here are your winners. So first base, Golden Glove winners. National League, Paul Goldschmidt of the Cardinals won. In American League, Yuli Gurriel of the Astros. Second base, National League, Tommy Edman of the Cardinals. American League, Marcus Semien of the Blue Jays. Third base, National League, Nolan Arenado of the Cardinals. He was a Rocky. And American League, Matt Chapman of the A's. Shortstop, National League, Brandon Crawford of the Giants. American League, Carlos Correa of the Astros. Left field, National League, Tyler O'Neill of the Cardinals. American League, Andrew Benintendi of the Royals. Center field, National League, Harrison Bader of the Cardinals. And American League, Michael A. Taylor of the Royals. Right field, National League, Adam Duvall of the Marlins and Braves because he was traded. American League would be Joey Gallo of the Rangers and the Yankees because he was traded. Catcher of the National League would be Jacob Stallings of the Pirates, American League Sean Murphy of the A's. And then pitcher National League Max Fried of the Braves, American League Dallas Keuchel of the White Sox. Those are your Golden Glove winners. As far as the Cy Young goes, Cy Young has not been announced yet. There are predictors going on. I don't remember exactly when that award is handed out, but so far for the American League, Liam Hendriks of the White Sox is predicted to win it all. Raciel Iglesias, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, and Robbie Ray are just a couple other names that are speculated to win. And as far as the National League, Julio Urias of the Dodgers is who is predicted to win it. Walker Buehler, Max Scherzer, Josh Hader, and Kevin Gossman. Other names predicted to win it. So whenever that is actually announced, we will get to that one. I believe this is everyone's favorite JPO, Jordan Pierce Owens with Pierce Wrestling. Where is the wrestling talk? This is sports, not sports entertainment. Maybe I'll add some wrestling towards like the end of the show next week when AEW after AEW has Full Gear, and we will talk about the ending of that because we're definitely not going to be talking about sports entertainment with WWE. Heck to the no. Why would I want to talk about that? I wouldn't. That's why. Last thing we are going to talk about is NCAA football. Not basketball, where there's NCAA football. I kind of talked about last week. It'd be fun to kind of take a look at my predictions and then see where every team is at so far, and just see where my rankings match up compared to where they actually are, and then we'll kind of talk about everything else. So I have to find my predictions. It's literally like 2-3 pages over. Never mind, it was a little bit more because where are they? This is the great part about doing everything just on the top of your head without actually thinking about doing it. I accidentally hit my keyboard. There we go. Go away. All right. So first, I talked about the ACC. Right now, Wake Forest is in the lead of the Atlantic Division, and Pittsburgh of the Coastal. So if the season ended today, it would be Pittsburgh versus Wake Forest, which is nowhere near what I said. I said Clemson versus Virginia Tech. So far, Clemson is at 6-3, while Wake Forest is at 8-1, 5-0 versus a 5-2 record. So there's still a small chance for Clemson to make it, but it's more than likely not going to happen. And I probably got that one extremely incorrect. And then as far as Virginia Tech goes, they are currently 4-5 with a 2-3 record in the conference, while Pittsburgh is at 7-2 with a 4-1 record. Pittsburgh might not win it. There are definitely a couple teams that are closer to them: Virginia, Miami, North Carolina. But Vatek is not winning it. So I was definitely wrong on that one. The next one I talked about was the Big 12. I had Oklahoma taking on TCU. I was wrong about one of those. Right now, Oklahoma is in the lead. One nice thing about the Big 12 conference, they take the top two teams with the highest record to play each other. OU currently at 6-0 in the conference, 9-0 overall, is in the lead. Oklahoma State's right behind with at 5-1. Baylor at 4-2. Iowa State at 4-2. TCU is second to last at 2-4. TCU, I hate to say it, I love you. You just beat Baylor with that interim coach. You're not going to make it. Oklahoma has a chance to not make it. They'd have to win to lose the rest of their games. There's like 2 more games left, I believe. Baylor and Iowa State would have to both win out for any chance of OU not making it. But it is looking like OU is going to be in the Big 12 championship, which I predicted. For the Big Ten, I had Penn State versus Iowa. I'm not completely wrong on that one. So right now in the East, Penn State with a 6-3 overall record is 3-3 in their conference. So far, winning the conference is Ohio State at 6-0 with an 8-1 overall record. Michigan State's at 5-1. Michigan is also at 5-1. Penn State, I think, is mathematically out of this. Yeah, because Ohio State has no losses in the conference, they would have to lose 3 times, and they're not playing 3 more games. Or no, they are playing exactly 3 more games, but because they have that win against Penn State, they do have that tiebreaker. Yeah. Their last 3 games, funnily enough, are Purdue, Michigan State, and Michigan. It's a very tough schedule right there. But yeah, very easy for them not to win it, but no chance for Penn State to win it. Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan, the only teams that still have a shot at the East. And then as far as the West goes, there's a 3-way tie for that actual spot. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, and Iowa are all at 4-2. Iowa has a 7-2 overall record. Purdue, Minnesota, and Wisconsin all have a 6-3 overall. Behind them is Illinois at 3-4. So Illinois could possibly sneak into that, but it's going to be really hard for them to sneak into that. So Iowa is really has it right now. Although since it's a 4-way tie, I know if it's a 3-way tie, what they usually do is they take the team with the highest record, just like what happened with OU, Texas, and Texas Tech back in 2009, I believe that was. If that's the case, Wisconsin moves on. If they take the best overall record, Iowa moves on. And then Purdue's just chilling at number 19 with a win over Iowa and Michigan State. So that'll definitely be an interesting one to watch, just how the last couple games go for those 4 teams to see where it is. But Iowa could very well win it, which is who I predicted would be in it. Next is the Pac-12, and I said this would be Oregon versus UCLA. As far as the Pac-12 goes, in the North, Oregon is in the lead with a 5-1 conference record, 8-1 overall. Washington State is at 4-2. Oregon State and Washington are both at 3-3. Oregon with 3 games left could lose all 3, and then Washington State, Oregon State, or Washington could take over. But Oregon has been playing very good lately. In their last 3 games, Washington State, Utah, and Oregon State. So 1 tough game and 2 not as tough games. As far as the South goes, right now Utah is in the lead at 5-1 with a 6-3 overall record. Arizona State right behind at 4-2. UCLA at 3-3 and USC at 3-4. Again, with 3 games left, Utah might win it. They do have that interesting game against Oregon, whereas Arizona State and UCLA, I don't believe, play any ranked teams. They definitely do not play any ranked teams. So that will definitely be an interesting game to watch for both teams, Oregon and Utah, because that's pretty much you win and you are in the conference championship game. And there's an overall possibility that both teams will beat each other again in the conference championship. Which Oregon I did predict, Utah I did not. UCLA is still in it though, so they can move on. And then the last conference that I talked about was the SEC. Um, this one's kind of an interesting one because I picked Georgia versus Texas A&M. In the East, Georgia is in the lead, 7-0 conference record, 9-0 all time. With 3 games left, only one is a conference game. They have Tennessee this upcoming week, Charleston South, and Georgia Tech as their last 2 games. So definitely 3 easy to win games. Must win if they want to stay at number 1. But it is looking like they will win the SEC East. I just did the math in my head. They won the SEC East. University of Kentucky is at 4-3. Tennessee is at 3-3. Since Georgia only has one SEC game left, they can only finish it at 7-1. So they won the East. But the interesting one is the West. Right now, Alabama is in the lead with a 5-1 conference record, 8-1 overall. Texas A&M at 4-2, Auburn at 3-2, Ole Miss at 3-2, and Mississippi State at 3-3. Alabama this week is playing New Mexico State, so regardless of what happens, they will still have the lead in the SEC West. But they finish off with Arkansas and Auburn. Both teams are ranked. Arkansas has been very surprising this year. And then Auburn, that is going to be at, I believe it's George O'Hare Stadium. Jordan Hare Stadium. I was very close. And that's also the Iron Bowl. We've seen crazy things happen at the Iron Bowl. Texas A&M, they have Ole Miss, Prairie View, and LSU, so 2 more SEC games. Auburn, of course, we just said Alabama, but they have Mississippi State next week, and then South Carolina the week after. And then Ole Miss, just because I like talking about Ole Miss, again, they play Texas A&M this week. Vanderbilt and Mississippi State is how they're finishing out their season. So it is very possible for Texas A&M to win the West because they have that win against Alabama. If they win out and Alabama loses to either Arkansas or Auburn, Texas A&M could very well win. And I'd say very well because I was looking to see how they did against Auburn. They beat Auburn 20-3. So because of that, if Texas A&M and Auburn finish with the same record, Texas A&M has the tiebreaker. If Alabama, Texas A&M, and Auburn finish with the same record, they'd probably go to whoever's ranked higher. Right now, Alabama's at 2, Texas A&M is at 11. It would be hard to see them putting Alabama higher than Texas A&M once they start thinking of, hey, these 2 teams played each other. But, of course, it is the College Football Playoff Committee. It happens. Real quick before we get into the performances of teams last week and the season this week, kind of breaking news for the college football world. The University of Connecticut, one of the worst teams in college football, has just hired former UCLA and NFL coach Jim Mora to be its next head football coach. Jim Mora, I just said coached UCLA. Very good coach. So we will see if he can turn UConn's horrible performance around. You definitely know he's going to add some recruiting just for the simple fact he is a well-known name and people want to play for him. or will want to play for him. So they'll definitely have a better recruiting class than they have had in the previous years. But we will see how they can actually turn that around and win some games. Going into last week's schedule, every top 25 team that played on Saturday. I just mentioned it a little bit earlier, but upset. Number 12 Baylor lost to TCU 30-28. Georgia beat Missouri 43-6. Ohio State survived in Nebraska 26-17. North Carolina upset Wake Forest 58-55. Ole Miss beat Liberty 27-14. Illinois pulling out the upset against Minnesota 14-6. Pittsburgh beat Duke 54-29. Cincinnati survived against Tulsa. Very close game right there, 28-20. Notre Dame beat Navy 34-6. Oklahoma State beat West Virginia 24-3. Texas A&M beat Auburn, which was the only game between two ranked teams, 20-3. BYU beat Idaho State 59-14. Wisconsin beat Rutgers 52-3. Michigan State got upset. I called it. I did against Purdue 40-29. Mississippi State was upset by Arkansas 31-28. North Carolina State beat Florida State 28-14. LSU almost upset Alabama, but Alabama was victorious 20-14. I called that too. I called it was going to be a really close game. Tennessee upset Kentucky 45-42. Iowa beat Northwestern 17-12. Boise State upset Fresno State 40-14. Oregon beat Washington 26-16. Michigan beat Indiana 29-7, and San Diego State beat Hawaii 17-10. These are all the teams that were ranked last week. Let's talk about where the rankings are now. And again, because the College Football Playoff Committee likes to do it this way, we're going to go reverse 25-1. But first, we're going to bring up the teams that were ranked last week and are not ranked anymore. Mississippi State, Kentucky, Minnesota, and Fresno State. All teams that were ranked last week. They're not ranked anymore. So at number 25, we have Arkansas. 24, we have Utah. 23, University of Texas in San Antonio. 22 is I almost did it again. San Diego State University, not South Dakota State. San Diego State. 21 is Pittsburgh. 20 Iowa. 19 Purdue. 18 Wisconsin. 17 Auburn. 16 North Carolina State. 15 Ole Miss. 14 BYU. 13 Baylor. 12 Wake Forest. 11 Texas A&M. 10 Oklahoma State. 9 Notre Dame. 8 Oklahoma University. 7 Michigan State. 6 Michigan. 5 Cincinnati. 4 Ohio State. 3 Oregon. 2 Alabama. And 1 Georgia. Big things there. Cincinnati. They were number 6 last week. There was a lot of outrage of it. Since one of the teams ahead of them lost, they moved up a spot. Also, fun fact, Michigan State, who got hammered by Purdue, like it was not that close, is number 7. OU, who is undefeated, is number 8. So I do find that a little weird how a one-loss Michigan State team, who lost to an unranked team at the time, is ahead of a unbeaten team who has actually had a pretty good season, which is hilarious because I always say how OU has had a crappy season. They're still undefeated. They're Big 12. Like, that's got to count for something, right? You would think so. And then, of course, Georgia and Alabama, very likely that they play each other. And if they do play each other, If Georgia wins, how far will Alabama drop? And if Alabama wins, will everyone be upset when Georgia is number 4? It'll also be interesting if Alabama loses, where Texas A&M and Auburn will stack up, depending on where they fall in the SEC West, whichever team wins it. But definitely a very exciting week. Last week, we have the new rankings, so we have different teams to talk about. Today, right now, literally going on right now, number 21 Pittsburgh is taking on North Carolina and winning 23-13. It is the end of the third quarter, so 1 quarter left to play in that game. It's in Pittsburgh, so we'll see if North Carolina can pull out the upsets. Tomorrow, Cincinnati is taking on South Florida. Can they win? We will see. And then as far as the rest of the ranked games, everything else is on Saturday. TCU is going to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State. New Mexico State is traveling to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. Don't worry, I'm not going to say the cities on every single one of them. Michigan is taking on Penn State. Mississippi State is taking on Auburn. Northwestern is taking on Wisconsin. Utah is taking on Arizona. Georgia is taking on Tennessee. Minnesota is taking on Iowa. Southern Miss is taking on University of Texas in San Antonio. Maryland is taking on Michigan State. Notre Dame is taking on Virginia. Arkansas is taking on LSU. Washington State is taking on Oregon. And Nevada is taking on San Diego State. Those are the games where it is one ranked team versus one unranked team. We do have, it looks like, 4 games in which we're seeing 2 ranked teams play each other. First one, North Carolina State is taking on Wake Forest. This is pretty much a try to seal your spot in the ACC championship game. North Carolina wins, and they are in control of the ACC Atlantic, I believe is. I just looked at it. Whereas if Wake Forest wins, I believe they have it because they would just have the 1 loss. And that would put NC State at the 3. I could be off on that, but again, a very important game to win in order to win the conference. Number 11, Texas A&M is taking on number 15, Ole Miss. Both of these teams at 7-2, both losses coming in SEC play. So if you want to have that outside shot of winning the SEC West and going on to the SEC championship game, this is a must-win game. Then we have Oklahoma taking on Baylor. Oklahoma could very well lose this game, but still go on to the Big 12 championship. Baylor, because they're sitting at 7-2, I believe both losses are in Big 12 play, really need to win this one. This game is also in Waco, so that will give Baylor a little added benefit or a little boost to kind of help them because they're playing at home. And then the final of the ranked versus ranked matchups, Purdue is going to see if they can take down their 3rd top 5 team as they travel to Columbus to take on The Ohio State University. I would love nothing more than to see Ohio State get beat this week. Is it going to happen? More than likely not. I'm really not a big fan of this Purdue team. They have had 2 very good games, both of which were at home, which is definitely a big difference when you're at home in front of your crowd versus when you're traveling to Columbus, Ohio, to play at one of the hardest places to play. Ohio State hardly ever loses at home, and there is a reason why, which is funny because when they played Oregon, it was in Columbus. But again, that's the fun things about college football. Anything can happen, just like the NFL, which is exactly what we saw last week when like three NFL teams who were heavily favored by double digits lost and cost me quite a bit of money. I'm not bitter about that. You're bitter. But with that, I have been your host for the night, Papa West, Jacob West. For everyone around TMG Entertainment and TMG Trivia, if you like this video, please click the little thumbs up button. It looks just like this. Leave a comment. Tell me something fun. Tell me what game you are most interested in this upcoming week. Is it that OU Baylor game? OU playing their second ranked team? Or is it this Ohio State Purdue game? This is like the first time Purdue's ever had the chance to beat three top five schools in one season. So we'll see if they can actually pull it out, or if they don't have any thunder behind them. Definitely, if you have not done it before, hit that subscribe button. We do throw out cool stuff almost every day. I have this weekly show, of course. Aaron Knoll does our movie Battlegrounds, which is our movie debate stuff. Again, we're still in the process of that tournament where we have the 0-1s playing each other and the 1-0s playing each other. So two tournaments going on at once. And then follow us over at TMG Trivia, where it's same people, just trivia instead of entertainment. And it's still entertainment. Going on literally as soon as I'm off, I'm going to make it live. James Puckett taking on Russell Howell, first matchup of the singles tournament. It's the number 16 versus the number 17 seed, I believe. I've said it like so many times I should know by now, but of course I do not. But again, that will go up live immediately after I'm done with this. I will make it live or make it public to everyone to see. So definitely give that a watch. And again, for everyone over at TMG Entertainment and TMG Trivia, have fun, stay safe, make smart choices. Or don't. I really don't care. I'm not your dad. But I could be your papa.